Hello, and this is going to be our second intervention video series thing. Um, so last week's we looked at constructions. This week we're looking at transformations. To start with, this video is going to look only at enlargements, because enlargements is normally the thing that features more on higher tier. If you're looking at doing reflections, you're normally thinking about equations of lines. If you're looking at rotations, they don't really tend to appear on higher tier papers. Enlargements, translations are probably more where it's at. So for this first little video, we're going to look just at our enlargements. Okay, and I've got three examples to do. You can see two of them on screen at the moment, and there's a third one underneath. So when enlarging, we need to pay attention to really two key bits of information. What our scale factor is, which is just how many times bigger the thing is going to get, and the center of enlargement. Okay, now the center of enlargement is where things get bigger from. And that's going to be one thing that we're going to have to be really careful with. Okay, so I've got a pencil, I've got a pen, I've got my ruler as well, just in case. And away I go. So for the first one, we're doing a scale factor of 2 from 1, 1. So this means that our shape is going to get twice as big, and it's also going to get twice as far away from this point. So the coordinate 1, 1, 1 across, 1 up, is right there. So that's my center of enlargement. To get from my center of enlargement to this point here, I'm having to go 1 square across, 1 square up. That is going to get twice as big because everything is getting enlarged with a scale factor of 2. So 1 square along and 1 square up will become 2 squares along and 2 squares up. So I'm going to have a point there. This point over here, which is 3 squares along and 1 square up, when we double it, is going to become 6 squares along and 2 squares up. Okay. And a point goes down there. Now, just to double check, that should make this side here, which was 2 squares along and is now 4 squares along. So it's become twice as big. Now, we can look to speed things up. We don't have to do everything point by point, especially if we're dealing with simpler shapes like this. I can just go, okay, this side here is 2 squares up. We're getting twice as big. So from this point, we should then go 4 squares up. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. While we're at it, we'll draw in the bottom line as well. Now, because we know that the shape that we started with is a square, I might as well just, say, well, the resulting shape is going to be a square. Okay, they will be similar shapes. They won't be congruent shapes. Remember, congruent means that they are exactly the same. Similar shapes are shapes which are enlargements of one another. So there's our shape. We've enlarged with a scale factor of 2 from the point 1, 1. Happy days. Again, one little check that I can do to make sure that things have gone how they should have. I should be able to line up my center of enlargement and the corresponding corners all in a straight line. And I should be able to do that with all of them. Okay, so there you go. Center of enlargement and the two bottom corners, but also the center of enlargement and the two top right corners. And finally as well, there we go, it's a nice straight line. Okay, you might see that referred to online as being called the ray method, which just means that you can draw a projection line going from the center of enlargement going through both of the corners. For our second example, the one that we've got here in the middle, we've got a fractional scale factor, a negative fractional scale factor. So we've gone for two things in one here, and we've gone from the center -1, 2. So that's that point there. I've already put the center of enlargement down. So a couple of little notes. First one, a scale factor between 0 and 1, our shape will get smaller. Okay, so that's our first little note. Our second little note, okay, for a negative scale factor, I'm just going to put SF. For a negative scale factor, we go in the opposite directions. Now, that's going to help us out quite a lot with our next two examples. Negative and fractional scale factors are the ones that, especially on a higher tier paper, we would be looking at being able to do and do well. So let's have a look. This scale factor is -1/2. So that means that my shape is going to be half of the size, and it's going to be doing it in the opposite direction. So follow through with me on this as we give this a go. So my center of enlargement is at -1, 2. To get from my center of enlargement to a corner, and I could go to any corner on this, but we're going to go for this one here because it's the closest one. I have to go 1 square up and 2 squares to the left. So 1 up, 2 to the left. That's not very readable. Let's go over that. So 1 up, 2 left. That is going to become a half down, because we half it for our scale factor, and we change the direction because of the negative. And instead of 2 to the left,